Before the lights even properly fade in, something already feels wrong, like the air itself is smiling at you. Because once you see it, it doesn't leave. It watches. It waits. And it always comes back wearing a face you trust. In this story, fame isn't protection. Wealth isn't escape. And even sanity becomes negotiable when something invisible has decided you're next. This is the nightmare of a global pop sensation who had everything until the smile found her. Sky Riley is not just famous. She is a world-level pop star, living inside flashing cameras, sold-out arenas, and a carefully controlled image of perfection. But behind that image is chaos. She is recovering from a devastating car crash that killed her boyfriend, left her physically injured, and pushed her into addiction and rehab. Every step she takes in public feels like walking on glass while smiling for the cameras. Now she's trying to return. A comeback tour. A rebirth. A second chance. But something else is coming back too. It begins quietly, in the cracks of her already fragile life. A late-night visit to an old acquaintance, Lewis, a drug dealer she once relied on during her lowest moments. She needs pills. Something to numb the pressure, the pain, the expectations crushing her from every side. But when she arrives at his apartment, nothing is normal. Lewis is acting wrong. Frozen. Smiling in a way that doesn't match his eyes. Like something inside him is pulling the strings of his face. Sky doesn't understand it yet. She thinks it's drugs. Mental instability. Maybe guilt. But then she sees it happen. Without warning, Lewis begins violently attacking himself, smashing his own head repeatedly with a heavyweight plate. The room turns into something unwatchable, something unreal. And through it all, he is smiling. Not a human smile. Something wider. Forced. Wrong. And in his final moments, he looks directly at Sky. That's when it transfers. Because whatever was inside him has now seen her. From that moment on, Sky's reality fractures. At first, it's subtle. A person in a crowd holding eye contact too long. A stranger smiling just a second too wide. Reflections that don't behave correctly. Her mind tries to rationalize everything. Trauma. Stress. Withdrawal. Fame pressure. But the pattern grows. People around her begin to smile at the wrong times. Not friendly smiles. Not natural ones. Smiles that feel like masks stretched over something rotting underneath. Sky starts questioning her own mind. And that is exactly what it wants. As she returns to rehearsals for her comeback tour, her world becomes a stage of paranoia. Backup dancers glance at her with blank, frozen grins. Her manager tries to stabilize her career while quietly panicking about her mental state. Every conversation feels like it could tilt into something horrifying without warning. And then the hallucinations begin to bite harder. She sees people in her life dying in front of her. Brutal. Sudden. Always smiling as it happens. She sees versions of herself collapsing on stage. She sees her dead boyfriend, his presence turning from memory into something invasive and accusatory. But the worst part is this: no one else ever sees it. To the outside world, Sky Riley is unraveling. To Sky, she is being hunted. What she doesn't know yet is that this entity doesn't simply haunt. It spreads like a chain reaction of trauma. It feeds on witnesses. It forces itself from one victim to another through psychological collapse, each host becoming the next doorway. And Sky has become the newest door. As pressure builds, her comeback performance approaches. The tour is not just a career moment anymore. It becomes a survival deadline. Because the entity doesn't wait. It escalates. Her rehearsals become unstable. She forgets choreography mid-performance. She breaks down in front of her team. Cameras capture moments she can't explain. Clips leak online. Fans begin to speculate about her mental health. But behind closed doors, something far worse is happening. Sky begins to realize she is not just seeing hallucinations. She is being shown things. Patterns. Faces. A repeating smile that appears across different people, different places, different moments. It's like the world itself is trying to teach her something she was never meant to understand. And then she uncovers fragments of the truth about what happened to Lewis. This isn't drugs. This isn't psychosis. It is something that transfers through trauma. Through witnessing death. Through breaking the human mind just enough to open a door. And now she understands the horrifying logic behind it. If she dies in front of someone else, it continues. If she can pass it on, she survives. That realization changes everything. Now her fear transforms into calculation. Her life is no longer just about survival. It becomes about timing. Choosing. Planning. Who sees what? Who becomes the next victim? But the entity is not passive. It reacts. The closer Skye gets to clarity, the more aggressive the hallucinations become. Her apartment no longer feels safe. Shadows behave like they are alive. Voices mimic people she trusts. Even silence feels staged, like it is waiting for her to break. And then reality begins to bend completely. She starts seeing crowds of smiling people watching her from impossible places. In mirrors. Behind doors. Inside reflections of glass buildings. The smile is everywhere now, no longer tied to specific individuals but becoming a presence in the world itself. Skye's grip on reality weakens further when she believes she might be responsible for violent incidents around her. Whether they are real or not no longer matters. The fear is real enough to control her. Her comeback tour can no longer be postponed. The performance night arrives. The stadium is massive. Lights. Music. Thousands of fans screaming her name. To them, this is a triumphant return of a fallen star reclaiming her life. But to Skye, it feels like standing inside a mouth. Backstage, she is already breaking. The entity is louder now than ever. The smiling faces are no longer just visions. They feel physically present, layered over reality like a second world bleeding through. Her team pushes her forward. The show must happen. And she steps onto the stage. At first, everything appears normal. Music starts. Applause erupts. Skye begins performing. But almost immediately, the hallucinations invade the performance space. The crowd begins to distort. Some faces remain normal. Others slowly stretch into that same unbearable smile. The lighting shifts into unnatural tones. The stage feels like it is breathing. Skye tries to continue. She sings through it. She dances through it. She fights to stay in control. But the entity is now fully inside her perception of reality. It no longer hides. It performs with her. The breakdown becomes inevitable. Skye stops mid-performance. The music continues, but she is no longer inside the same world as everyone else. She sees the audience as a single unified presence of smiling horror, all watching her like she is the final act. And then she understands something terrifying. This is not just about her dying. It is about her being witnessed. The entity needs an audience. Skye begins to lose herself completely. Her movements become erratic. Her expression shifts between terror and forced calm. The crowd reacts in confusion as the show collapses into chaos. And in that final collapse, Skye realizes she has no clean escape. No safe ending. Only transmission. In her last moments, she makes a decision shaped by panic, desperation, and broken logic. If this thing continues no matter what, then the only control left is how it continues. The stage becomes a battleground between her will and the entity's control. And then everything breaks at once. The performance ends not with resolution, but with irreversible tragedy witnessed by thousands, ensuring the curse does exactly what it always does: moves forward. Cold. And terrifying. Yet despite unimaginable loss, something remarkable survives. Hope. Rain's journey began with escape. It evolved into survival. And ultimately became a testament to resilience. She discovered that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to move forward despite it. The shadows of Romulus may never release their grip on her memories. The screams. The blood. The faces of those she couldn't save. The monsters lurking beyond the darkness. But she carries forward the lessons they left behind. Humanity's greatest strength isn't technology. It isn't wealth. It isn't corporate dominance. It's the ability to choose empathy when fear demands selfishness. And somewhere in the endless void of space, other abandoned stations drift silently through the stars. Other secrets wait to be uncovered. Other nightmares remain asleep. Because in this universe, evil doesn't always announce itself with roars and violence. Sometimes it hides behind contracts, labor quotas, scientific ambition, and promises of a better future. The xenomorph remains one of the deadliest creatures ever encountered. But humanity's refusal to learn from its mistakes may be even more dangerous. And that's what makes this story truly terrifying. Because monsters from the stars are rare. Human greed is not. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to subscribe and share movie story recaps so you never miss another unforgettable movie breakdown. Drop a comment below and tell us which movie you want us to recap next. Until then, remember this. In space, you don't always hear danger coming. Sometimes, by the time you realize you're being hunted, it's already too late.